India and Pakistan mark 72 years of freedom from British colonial rule amid heightened tensions in Kashmir. Hello, I'm Nathan King, filling in for Anna Naidu, and this is The Heat. To discuss the ongoing Kashmir dispute, I want to bring in our panel. Utha Zia is an assistant professor of anthropology at the University of Northern Colorado, Greeley. She joins us from Denver, Colorado. And joining us from New Delhi, Dr. Sreeram Chaulia. He is a professor and dean of the Jindal School of International Affairs. Musharraf Zaidi joins us from London. He was a former principal advisor to Pakistan's foreign minister. And from New York, Jonathan Wachtel joins us. He was former director of communications at the U.S. mission to the United Nations. Welcome to you all to the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Dr. Chaulia, I want to start with you. You are in New Delhi. We've seen lots of headlines about this, but this was actually part of Narendra Modi's re-election strategy, correct? Changing the status of Kashmir. What brought all this about?
Sure. I think he's a hardcore Indian nationalist, and Mr. Modi and his party have for many decades been agitating both in and out of power to change this special status for Kashmir. And their logic is that, creating this autonomous, separate, giving it a kind of a separate status was preventing it from being mainstreamed into the, national, Indian national fabric. And so the idea that Mr. Modi had right from his first term was to scrap this Article 370 and Article 35A. These two provisions of the Indian Constitution gave Jammu and Kashmir, this region, a separate flag of its own constitution, powers over residents who can come in and who can leave the place, who can reside and who are considered to be inhabitants of this valley, or especially of the Kashmir Valley, which is overwhelmingly Muslim majority. So I think from Mr. Modi's point of view and from the Indian nationalist point of view, it was necessary to put this behind us, because otherwise it was creating this permanent stage of alienation of the Kashmiris who believe that they actually don't belong to India fully. So this is a kind of a move for full integration of Kashmir into India, and it's been overwhelmingly supported by people across the country, except in the Kashmir Valley itself, where there is a alienation and separatist sentiment. But outside that, you look at the public opinion, look at the parliament, look at the mass sentiment. So in a way, you're right. It is an election promise that is fulfilling, and it's a structural transformation he's trying to do. In a way, moving past the old dynamic where Pakistan would claim the Indian Kashmir as part of its own territory, try to grab it by force or by fomenting separatism. Pakistan was utilizing this special status in Indian Kashmir to foment more anti-India alienation. And I think Mr. Modi believes that the autonomy did not work. So now we are going for assimilation and integration.
Okay, I want to get to the other guests, but Dr. Chaulia had his hand up there. Obviously wants to rebut a couple of those things. It's getting pretty heated pretty early on, as we expect with this division, of course. Dr. Chaulia, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to point out that Pakistan is internationally recognized as a violator of human rights. It has been butchering the people of Balochistan and left, right, and center. The Pakistani occupied Kashmir, there are uprisings against the military domination there, and the claim that the Kashmiri are somehow separate. Well, Pakistan occupies 1/3 of Kashmir. Why are they not vacating that?
Dr. Chaulia, I want to just go back to the rationale here by Indian Prime Minister Modi. But before that, I just want to play a soundbite that we have from him, because he's speaking in very lofty terms in terms of the decision here and what it means for Kashmir and the Indian people as well.
The hopes and aspirations of the citizens of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh are our collective responsibility. Their dreams should get new wings, and this is our responsibility as well. And for those dreams, all our countrymen should also take responsibility, whatever the difficulties. We will try to overcome.
So, Dr. Chaulia, we touched on the popularity of this move in India too, but India is also home to a large, tens of millions, Muslim minority as well. Could this exacerbate tensions, especially considering the nationalist tendencies that you alluded to before?
No. You see, the 180 million Muslims in India are peaceful and are well integrated into various communities spread across. The issue with the Kashmir Valley, where the 7 million Muslims is different because they have had this special status, and so they had like a ghettoization with their own, enclave mentality, as in they felt like they were not part of the rest of Indian Muslims. But Indian Muslims overwhelmingly have no issues. In fact, most of them are very patriotic and they supported Mr. Modi's decision. So they are, in fact, in tune with the rest of the country. So, and that's the reason is very clear. You see, that goes back to the rationale as well, because they are intermixed and interspersed with other religious groups. There's interdependence. People live together. There's no kind of exclusivity like you've had in Kashmir for so long. So that needs to go. And I think that's the only way India will be able to stabilize Kashmir. And just going back to the point about, the humanitarian crisis and so on, a lot of this is exaggerated. I mean, essential supplies are moving. There's not a single casualty that's happened so far in the last 11 days since the decision was made. There's not been any so-called large-scale uprising or incident. And gradually, step by step, sector by sector, many of these restrictions are being lifted. And you will not be even talking about it in another 4 or 5 days. So, and there are going to be elections, there's going to be a new assembly, there's going to be, union territory with the legislature. So the new reformed Jammu and Kashmir will still have a democratic process, unlike what you have in the Pakistani side, which is complete, military jackboots crushing the aspirations of Kashmiris on that side. So I think, we must give due diligence, due accordance to procedure as per the Indian Constitution, as per democratic practices. It's going to happen, and the will of the majority, you see, will prevail in any democracy. It's always a choice, and I think that must be respected.
Well, Dr. Chaulia, cooler heads. I mean, is Modi prepared to go to war over this?
No, not at all. Nathan, I would say that. This moment is indeed a delicate one, and a lot depends on how Pakistan responds, because for them they are seeing their dream of grabbing Kashmir by force slipping away, and Modi consolidating control over the Indian part of Kashmir.
Let me go to Musharraf Zaidi. Would Pakistan go to war over this?
Pakistan is not has never sought war. Pakistan is a smaller country, and militarily, financially, economically, a weaker country. It makes no sense for Pakistan to go to war. Pakistan has not sought war even in February after India attacked Pakistan. Pakistan only conducted defensive actions, which led to the downing of an Indian plane, but the Indian pilot that was captured was handed over almost immediately. Every instinct in terms of Pakistan's core regional relationships, whether it's Saudi Arabia or it's China, both those countries, and their sage advice to Pakistan is to focus on the economy. So there's no incentive, and there's nothing pushing Pakistan to war other than one single factor, and that is the extremism and fanaticism of New Delhi. So as long as the United States and other countries can prevail over.
Yeah, I just want Dr. Chaulia.
Hotbed of extremists, and worldwide recognized to be a hotbed of extremists. I think they need to be restrained. If Pakistan is restrained from promoting its proxy war and jihad in Kashmir, I think there'll be peace and no need to go to war at all.
Uthazir in Denver, we'll have to leave it there. And from New Delhi, New York and London and all points in between, you can see the debate getting very heated there. And that is it for this edition of The Heat. I'm Nathan King in Washington, D.C., and thanks so much for being with us.